All right, let's get right into it. When you think of Yellowstone, what comes to mind? Probably geysers, maybe some bison, right? But the real story, the story of how this place came to be, is so much more extreme. We're going to peel back that beautiful surface and look at a history forged by fire, ice, and just incredible geological fury.
You know, this quote just nails it. It perfectly captures that crazy contrast. Everything you see, all that peace and quiet on the surface, it's really just a thin blanket covering one of the most powerful and restless forces on the entire planet.
Because the park's true story, its real identity, isn't about the animals or the trees. It's an ancient epic, written in stone and steam, a story of geology pushed to its absolute limits. So here it is, the single most important thing to understand. Yellowstone National Park sits directly on top of a massive, active supervolcano. We're not talking about a simple mountain here. We're talking about a geological feature so huge and powerful, it has shaped the history of North America. And yeah, it is still very much alive today. Okay, so let's start with a fire. Deep beneath the ground, miles down, is this colossal chamber of magma, a gigantic reservoir of molten rock. This is the engine room, the famous Yellowstone hotspot that has fueled its incredibly violent history. And when I say violent, I mean it's on a scale that's almost impossible to wrap your head around. The last major super-eruption here was 1,000 times larger than the Mount St. Helens eruption in 1980. An event like that would have truly global consequences, burying huge parts of North America in ash and kicking off a volcanic winter that could change the climate for everyone. And get this, it wasn't some one-off event. As you can see, these massive, world-altering eruptions have happened again and again over the last couple of million years, each one completely wiping the slate clean and reshaping the landscape on a continental scale. And this is what's left behind. After all that material gets blasted out, the ground just collapses. It forms a gigantic volcanic crater called a caldera. The one at Yellowstone is enormous, 30 by 45 miles. In fact, when you visit the park, a huge chunk of it is actually inside this ancient collapsed crater. All right, so let's shift gears to the next major force. If fire was the builder that laid Yellowstone's foundation, then ice was the master sculpture that carved all the fine details. For millions of years, unimaginably huge glaciers crawled back and forth across this volcanic wasteland. So you have this incredible 1-2 punch of elemental forces. First, fire comes in with explosive, chaotic power and builds the rough shape. Then ice follows, slowly and methodically grinding and sculpting that shape into what we see today. And you can see the fingerprints of this great sculptor everywhere you look. The ice was sometimes thousands of feet thick, heavy enough to gouge out those classic wide U-shaped valleys. It sharpened mountain peaks into jagged points, and as it melted, it just dropped these massive boulders, we call them erratics, in the middle of nowhere. And this partnership right here is the absolute key to understanding the Yellowstone of today. The ancient volcanic fire provides all that incredible heat from below, and the melted glaciers, well, they provided the massive amounts of water that have been seeping into the ground for millennia. And that combination, that meeting of intense heat and endless water, is what creates the famous geothermal fury of Yellowstone. It's the whole reason the ground hisses and steams and literally erupts right in front of you. So how does a geyser like Old Faithful actually work? Well, it's a pretty simple system, but incredibly powerful. Water seeps way down into the Earth's plumbing where it gets superheated by that magma chamber way below. The pressure just builds and builds and builds until it can't be held back anymore, and boom, it violently explodes back to the surface as a column of steam and boiling water. Now, you see those wild, vibrant colors in the hot springs? You'd probably guess they come from minerals or chemicals in the water, right? The truth is so much cooler. They're alive. Those colors are created by vast colonies of microbes that love the heat. And the different colors actually show us where different types of microbes are living, all at their own preferred temperatures. It's like a living thermometer.
And make no mistake, this is not some ancient, dormant system. The ground in Yellowstone is constantly being watched because it's always on the move. It literally breathes. The entire floor of that giant caldera can rise and fall, bulging and subsiding as the magma shifts and swells deep underground. So, Let's bring it all together and think about what the park really is today. It's not just a place on a map, it's a living, breathing giant. This is just the perfect way to picture it. When you see a geyser go off, you're not just watching hot water. You are feeling the pulse of the supervolcano, and all that steam rising from the ground, that's its breath. When it comes right down to it, Yellowstone is a window into what scientists call deep time. It's one of the few places on Earth where you can stand on the surface and see and feel the direct results of millions of years of volcanic fire and crushing ice. It's a living monument to how our planet was made. So as we wrap this up, it kind of leaves you with the question, doesn't it? When you think about the explosive, raw power of a supervolcano versus the slow, patient, grinding force of a glacier, which one of those geological forces do you find more awe-inspiring? It's tough to choose, but either way, you have to appreciate the incredible creative power of our planet.